I never expected a Tuesday dinner meeting to change my life. As a billionaire who'd built everything from nothing, I thought I'd seen it all, until a waitress with sad eyes and graceful hands served my wine and spoke truth I'd been avoiding for years. What happened that night at Romano's taught me that success means nothing when you're empty inside. Sometimes the people we save end up saving us. This is how Mary Chen reminded me what matters. This is our story. My name is Robert Morgan, and at 36, I'd achieved everything I dreamed of, and felt nothing. I sat at table 12 in Romano's, reviewing acquisition documents while Marcus droned on about projected growth rates. 30% increase first quarter. Market positioning. Shareholder value. The words that used to excite me now felt hollow, like counting money in an empty house. "This is it, Rob," Marcus said, raising his wine glass. "This deal puts us in the top 5 tech companies in Chicago. Your father would be proud." My father. Dead 15 years, along with my mother. They'd built a small accounting firm through honest work and died before seeing me turn their modest legacy into a billion-dollar empire. I'd done everything to honor their memory, except build the life they'd actually wanted for me. Family. Connection. Joy. More wine, gentlemen? The voice was soft, almost apologetic. I glanced up briefly at the waitress, mid-20s, tired eyes, dark hair pulled back professionally. She had that practiced invisibility service workers perfect, the art of being present without being seen. I nodded without really looking at her. Then Marcus's phone rang. "Sarah's in labor," he said, already standing. "The baby's early. I have to go." "Of course. Go." "Congratulations, man." I forced enthusiasm I didn't feel. After he left, the restaurant suddenly felt cavernous. Around me, couples laughed over candlelit dinners. Families celebrated birthdays. Friends shared stories over pasta. And I sat alone with my expensive wine and my impressive deal documents, wondering why none of it mattered anymore. The waitress returned. "Would you like me to box your dinner, sir?" "No," I heard myself say. "I'll stay. There's no one waiting for me at home anyway." The word surprised me. Too honest, too raw. I never admitted weakness, especially not to strangers. But something about the emptiness of that moment made me reckless with truth. Her expression shifted slightly, and I saw recognition in her eyes. She understood loneliness too. "Sometimes being alone is better than being with the wrong people," she said quietly, then immediately looked startled, as if she hadn't meant to speak. I studied her more carefully now. She moved with unconscious grace, her hands elegant despite the serving tray. There was something in her eyes, depth, pain, intelligence, that didn't match her role. "You sound like you know from experience," I said. She hesitated, professional mask slipping. "I'm sorry. That was unprofessional. I'll bring fresh coffee." "Wait." I surprised myself again. "You're right. I spend my days surrounded by people. Board meetings, conferences, business dinners. But actual connection? That's rare." She poured my coffee with practiced precision, but I noticed her hands trembled slightly. "You built something impressive, didn't you? That's what people like you do. Build empires. People like me? Successful. Driven. The kind who forgets to eat lunch because you're too busy changing the world." She gestured at my barely touched osso buco. "Your dinner's getting cold." I laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time in weeks. "You're observant." "It's my job to notice things," she said. "Most people think waitresses are invisible. They don't realize how much we actually see." "Like what?" I leaned forward, genuinely curious now. She shouldn't have continued. I could see her weighing professionalism against something deeper. Then exhaustion or loneliness made her brave. "I see people celebrating promotions while their spouses look miserable. First dates with no future. Business partners who smile but hate each other. And sometimes—" She paused, meeting my eyes directly. "Sometimes I see people who've forgotten what they're working so hard for." The observation cut straight through me. This waitress I'd barely noticed had just articulated the exact emptiness I'd been feeling for months. "And what do you see when you look at me?" I asked softly. "I see someone who needs to remember why he started." Her words hung between us, uncomfortably accurate. I should have been offended. Who was she to psychoanalyze a customer? Instead, I felt seen for the first time in years. "What's your name?" I asked. "Mary. Mary Chen." "Well, Mary Chen, you're wasted as a waitress." The words came out before I could stop them. Something flickered across her face. Pain, irony, maybe both. "Everyone has their story," she said, retreating into professionalism. "I should check my other tables." "Do you?" I pressed, not ready to let this strange connection end. "Have a story?" Her hand moved unconsciously to her throat, touching something hidden beneath her uniform. "Nothing interesting. Just bills and rent like everyone else." "I don't believe you." I'd spent 20 years reading people in business negotiations. Mary Chen was hiding something significant. "That thing you said about forgetting why we started, that came from somewhere real." She was quiet for a long moment. Around us, the restaurant hummed with other people's lives, other people's happiness. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. "I had dreams once. Big ones. But life had other plans." "What kind of dreams?" I watched her struggle with the answer, saw the wall she'd built around whatever she was protecting. Then something in her broke. Just a little. "Music," she whispered. "I was a violinist. Classically trained. I played at Millennium Park, had symphony auditions, was accepted to advanced programs." Her laugh was bitter. "Then my parents died suddenly, and I inherited their debts instead of their hopes. Turns out you can't pay rent with Brahms." The raw honesty in her voice matched my own emptiness perfectly. Here we were, a billionaire who'd achieved everything and felt nothing, and a musician who'd lost everything and felt too much. "How long since you've played?" I asked. 3 years, 2 months, 17 days. The precision revealed everything. Every single day, I miss it. An idea formed in my mind, reckless, impulsive, completely unlike my usual calculated decisions. I glanced around the restaurant and spotted something I'd never noticed before. "That violin on the wall," I said, pointing above the bar. "Is it real?" Mary turned to look, and I saw her entire body tense. "It belonged to Mr. Romano's grandmother. She played in Naples. But it's just decoration now. Hasn't been tuned in decades." "Play it." Her eyes went wide. "What?" "Play something for me. Right now." I pulled out my wallet. "I'll make it worth your while. Call it a tip for exceptional service." "I can't." Panic flooded her expression. "I haven't touched a violin in 3 years. My fingers aren't conditioned. I'd sound terrible. And that's Mr. Romano's family heirloom." "Mary." Something about this felt important, like I was supposed to push her toward this moment. "What's the worst that could happen? You play badly, and I hear it? I'll never see you again after tonight anyway." I watched her war with herself. Fear versus longing. Safety versus risk. "Why?" she asked, voice trembling. "Why does this matter to you?" The question forced me to examine my own motives. Why did I care if a waitress I just met played violin? Because an hour ago, I'd been sitting here wondering if my entire life was meaningless. Then this woman who saw too much had told me I'd forgotten why I started. "Because maybe you've forgotten too," I said honestly. "Maybe we both need to remember what we're supposed to be doing with our lives." I saw the exact moment she made her decision. Terror and hope mixing in her eyes. "One song," Mary whispered, her voice shaking. "Just one." I had no idea that one song would change everything. Mr. Romano emerged from the kitchen when Mary explained what I'd asked. The old man's weathered face transformed with emotion. "Nana Maria would want her violin played again," he said, carefully lifting the instrument from the wall. "She always said music dies when we keep it locked away out of fear." I watched Mary's hands tremble as she took the violin. The change in her was immediate and profound. Her posture straightened, her chin lifted. For the first time since I'd been watching her, she looked like she belonged exactly where she was. She tested the strings, and I was mesmerized by the unconscious expertise in her movements. This was muscle memory 3 years dormant, waking up despite her fear. "It's terribly out of tune," she murmured, already making adjustments with the confidence of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. The few remaining customers grew quiet, sensing something significant about to happen. I found myself holding my breath. Mary lifted the violin to her chin, positioned her fingers, raised the bow. Then she froze, eyes squeezed shut. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," I said softly. "Play anyway." She took a breath that seemed to contain 3 years of held-back tears. The first note was tentative, cracking slightly. The second was stronger. By the third, something magical began to happen. Mary started playing Bach's air on the G string, and I forgot how to breathe. This wasn't polished concert hall perfection. This was raw, honest, achingly beautiful sound that came from somewhere deep and broken inside her. Every note carried weight. Grief, loss, hope, longing. Her tears fell freely, but her fingers never faltered. I'd attended charity galas with world-renowned orchestras. I'd heard professional musicians perform in the finest concert halls in the world. Nothing had ever moved me like this. This was a soul speaking truth through music, and I was witnessing something sacred. When the final note faded, I realized I was standing without remembering getting up. My face was wet. I was crying, something I hadn't done since my parents' funeral. The other customers applauded softly. Mr. Romano wept openly, clutching a photograph of his grandmother. Mary lowered the violin, looking dazed and vulnerable and more alive than I'd seen her all evening. "My God," I breathed. "Who are you?" "I told you," she said, her voice shaking. "I'm nobody. Just no." The word came out forceful. Nobody doesn't play like that. That was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. She looked at me like I'd offered her something precious and terrifying. It wasn't technically perfect. I missed notes. My vibrato was inconsistent. "It was perfect," I interrupted. "It was honest. And you can't go back to just serving coffee after playing like that." "Dreams don't pay rent," Mary said, but I heard the hope creeping into her voice. That's when I made the decision that would change both our lives. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts. Margaret Chen, no relation to Mary, but the director of the Chicago Symphony's Youth Development Program. I donated to her program generously every year, and more importantly, I trusted her judgment about talent. "What are you doing?" Mary asked, alarm in her voice. "Making a call," I said simply. "You have a gift, Mary. A real, extraordinary gift. And I'm not going to let you waste it serving pasta to people like me who've forgotten what actually matters." "Please don't," she whispered. "I can't handle hope right now. Hope is what broke me the first time." I looked at her, this woman who'd reminded me why I'd built everything in the first place, this stranger who'd seen straight through to my emptiness and spoken truth anyway. What if it wasn't about hope? I said gently. What if it was about what you deserve? Margaret answered on the second ring. "Robert, this is unexpected. It's late." "Margaret, I need a favor." "Actually, not a favor. I need you to trust me." I glanced at Mary, who was watching me with fearful hope. I'm standing in a restaurant with a violinist who just gave the most extraordinary performance I've ever heard. She hasn't played in 3 years, she's working as a waitress, and she has the kind of raw talent you spend your entire career searching for. "Robert, I appreciate your support of our program, but we have protocols. Audition processes. Waiting lists that. I'm recording something. Listen." I held up my phone and nodded at Mary. "Play again. Just 30 seconds. Mary's eyes went wide, but after a heartbeat of hesitation, she lifted the violin once more. This time she played something different, a brief, soaring passage that made my chest ache. When she finished, I brought the phone back to my ear. Silence. Then Margaret's voice, completely changed. "Who is she?" "Mary Chen. 27. Classically trained. Played at Millennium Park before life got in the way." "Mary Chen," Margaret repeated slowly. "I remember that name. She was accepted to Juilliard 6 years ago but never showed up. We always wondered what happened to her." Mary's face went pale. "She'd been good enough for Juilliard." Margaret continued, "Robert, if she sounds like that after 3 years without playing, with proper training again, she could be extraordinary. Can she come to my office tomorrow?" 9 a.m. "She'll be there," I said, watching Mary's tears start again. "And Robert." Margaret's voice softened. Thank you. This is why I do this work, finding the ones who slip through the cracks. When I hung up, Mary was staring at me like I'd just handed her the moon. She wants to meet you tomorrow, I said. She remembered your name, Mary. You were accepted to Juilliard. You didn't lose your talent. You just lost your way. And I'm going to help you find it again. I sit in the front row of Symphony Center, watching Mary Chen take the stage as featured soloist with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. She wears a black concert gown, her violin tucked under her chin, and she looks like she was always meant to stand in that spotlight. 6 months ago, I was a billionaire who'd forgotten why success mattered. Then a waitress with sad eyes reminded me that the best investments aren't measured in dollars. They're measured in human potential, in dreams reclaimed, in lives transformed. Mary helped me remember why I built my empire. Not to accumulate wealth, but to make things possible for people who deserve chances they couldn't give themselves. The conductor signals. Mary draws her bow across the strings, and the first note fills the hall with that same honest, heartbreaking beauty I heard at Romano's. She catches my eye from the stage and smiles, that same gentle smile she gave me when serving coffee, except now it's full of joy instead of resignation. I saved her that night at Romano's. But the truth is, she saved me first. She reminded me what it means to be truly alive. And that's worth more than all my billions combined.